In today's video, I'm going to share with you my latest comic book hauls, including how I transformed a bunch of collectible clutter into key comics. Coming right up. What's up guys, my name is John, and you're watching Old Stuff is Cool. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. We've got my latest comic book pickups to share with you today, and these are all from in-person stores or in-person events. So let's cut right to it. The first 3 books comes from Magic Dragon Comics over in Arlington, Massachusetts. I was hunting a few recent comics as well as back issues. First up is from the Todd McFarlane, Peter David run of Incredible Hulk, and that is Hulk issue 333. Now, funny enough, I've seen this cover before on, the trade paperback collection of this story, and I always thought it was a Todd McFarlane cover because, yeah, wasn't he doing a bunch of covers? Well, it turns out after a little bit of digging, despite some stylistic similarities, this is not in fact Todd McFarlane. His first cover was just at issue 330, featuring Doc Samson on the front, but this is by a different artist altogether, which I forgot to look up and will put down here right now. Either way, Todd does do the interiors, and I've read this one before, but it's been a number of years, actually like since before I even had my children or got married. So it's time for a revisit of this. And you know what? Peter David's run is so long in Incredible Hulk. I've definitely never read it in its entirety, so that might be on the list of things to do. Also, the second book is in the same category. It is another issue of Incredible Hulk, this time issue 344. This cover is in fact by Todd McFarlane. So showing the Todd father a lot of love already this video. A really fun dynamic cover here. The Hulk's torn shirt and jeans kind of acting like a cape of sorts, jumping through the night with an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Again, my memory is not the best, so I forget who that character is. That actually could be Betty Brant, under the care of S.H.I.E.L.D. for all I know. Either way, another very cool cover. And then the third and final comic I picked up from this trip at Magic Dragon Comics was an upgrade to one of my favorite books that I picked up kind of in the early days I discovered Whatnot. And this comic is Moon Knight issue number 1 from his first ongoing series. And the copy that I got, well, a little background is that Moon Knight hype drove up the cost of a lot of his back issues. His first appearance is still, fairly valuable in Werewolf by Night 32. Hope to get that one day. But I mean, this one was much more, even like a year or so after the Disney Plus series had come out. So I think I first purchased a lower grade copy. It's like a mid-grade or so at a higher price for like around 30 bucks or so, which was okay at the time given a little bit of research I had done. Well, this issue was only $20 and was a better higher grade than that one. So easy enough. I picked it up, and I don't talk about it too much, but I was able to move on my previous copy for a fair price on my eBay store. And eBay has been a great way when I've upgraded comics, or even like when I have changed or shifted gears rather in my collecting, and now it's time to offload something. Maybe I'm not as into a certain character or series that I thought I was. eBay has been a great way to kind of move on those books and recoup some of the money to put into something else. And that's exactly what I was able to do here. And we'll stick with that theme later on in the video about kind of moving collectibles, moving comics that maybe you've fallen out of love with or just have sticking around, and turning them into something more desirable. But as for the haul for Magic Dragon Comics, Moon Knight and the 2 Hulk books ran me a total of $35. So happy to have some Todd McFarlane books there, and so happy to be able to upgrade my crazy boy Moon Knight here and all his personalities. Alright, moving on to my second haul. This is another set of 3 books, funny enough, and this was from an event, the Bow Market Vintage Market, right in my home of Somerville, Massachusetts. Happens twice a year. Happens in May. This one occurred just May 31st, not too long ago, as well as in the fall. I think I want to say right at the end of September. And I came across this vendor in the previous September, which I made a video about, where I got some great vintage Amazing Spider-Man and vintage Daredevil. So just want a quick shout out to Bob, who's over on Instagram as Can't Touch This Collectibles. He's not super active, but at the very least, I wanted to give him a shout out, as I have had these 2 of 2 really good interactions. I can always find some old books from him, and sure enough, when I saw him most recently, I found some old books. So first up is more Daredevil. It is a very beat up copy of Daredevil issue 22. Maybe not very beat up. It's a low grade copy of Daredevil 22, and this was, I think I just wanted to bundle some stuff together. The price wasn't too bad. I wasn't as thorough as I was in my first purchase with them, as I did discover upon bagging and boarding this guy afterwards at home that the cover is in fact detached from the bottom staple. So that's probably more low grade than I wanted, but you know what? I think this is one of the cases where it's such a low number Daredevil, and it was, again, part of trying to bundle something together. I don't mind. It could be an upgrade book, but it certainly doesn't have to be. And I don't know, I just have a certain soft spot for Daredevil anyway in my collecting. Now the second comic I got, I've always kept my eye out for this one. It's kind of just the start of a new series for our boy Spider-Man. I mean, at this point, it's not new. At the time, it was new. What I'm talking about is Peter Parker, Spectacular Spider-Man #1. You got Tarantula on the cover. There's no key first appearances or anything like that, but I feel like it's a very well-known cover. It's the beginning of, at that time, let's see, it would have been, I think it would have been Amazing Spider-Man only, and Spectacular was the second title given to Spidey. I think, unless we're counting Marvel Tales for reprints and stuff. Clearly, I did not do as much research into this, but Spec Spider-Man #1, there we go. And the third and final book, also sticking with Spider-Man, I found some more Silver Age Spidey, and we've got Amazing Spider-Man issue 76. Awesome cover here featuring the Lizard and Spidey by John Romita Sr. And I can't pass up on these. I mean, I got the issue with featuring Kraven and Spidey last time, so I thought it was just meant to be. Very happy to have gotten these 3 books and bundled all together. Got it for the price of $60. So some Bronze and Silver Age books from Marvel. Never a bad thing, and you can bet that I'll be keeping an eye out for Can't Touch This Collectibles in September as well. Guys, if you could do me a huge favor, and if you enjoy videos like these, comic hauls, videos about comic books, could you please hit that like button? And if you haven't done so already, please consider becoming a subscriber to the channel, and don't miss out on any new videos. So I did give a little plug and heads up about my eBay store, which is one way I move comics and kind of other collections and hobbies that I have moved on from, like some old video games, old toys. You will find all that kind of stuff there. But sometimes just too much stuff accumulates, and in particular, anyone that has tried to sell/resell comic books, you know how hard it can be to move, I guess, bulk issues, run fillers, certain lesser known titles or characters. They can sit around for a long time. So after combing through my own collection and filling a long box, I decided to trade in that box of comics as well as a bunch of other items to my local comic book store, Kamikaze, for some trade credit. Now, quick point of disclosure is I do work for Kamikaze, and I have incentive to trade in there because I also have an employee discount, which kind of stretches my dollar a little bit more, especially if I'm looking to buy something or some things in the store. But also, I just want to be upfront and transparent. So with that out of the way, some of the other things I traded it in, and I have some photos which I'll share right now. I had a bunch of old toys. I mean, credit to my mom, where she had saved basically, all or almost all of the various toys I had growing up. I had and still have quite the collection of, my childhood, but now vintage toys. Some of the ones I decided to move on were a bunch of the kind of collectible minifigures, like the Muscle Men, such a classic. Also, Monsters in My Pocket, which was, I'm pretty sure, directly inspired by that whole trend that the Muscle Men started up. I also had my old Xbox 360 controllers and small collection of games that I just wanted to move on. But I have to say, it was a huge sense of relief just to get things out of the house. I've mentioned multiple times, my comic collection and collections in general, my hobbies, are limited to the space I have, the room, the office that I film in, a little bit of space in a basement, but I never want to be in a place where I am renting a storage unit to contain any kind of hobby or collection I'm into. So moving on / reducing is I don't know. I think it's a good rhythm to have as we go year to year. All the things I showed you got reduced to 3 comic books, and they are from 2 series that are near and dear to my heart. They are my go-to comfort food of comic books: X-Men and Spider-Man. So the first book here, representing the X-Men portion, is X-Men issue number 96. And this is officially my lowest number issue of X-Men now. It features the first appearance of Dr. Moira McTaggart, who has always been a long-standing supporting cast member, sometimes involved in some love triangles or some romance in the cast. Still a very important part to the X-Men history. And this is a good chance to talk a little bit about what I've shared in wanting to complete the Claremont run of X-Men. So as of, I'm recording this in early June 2026, I think I've settled on not getting the entire Claremont run. At least it's highly deprioritized, because like this one being a key issue, being a first appearance, that feels good. I will continue with kind of the missing issues I have, and getting those kind of important issues or like covers I really enjoy. But in the past few months, I've picked up some other issues from conventions and whatnot, just as run filler. And I know everyone's threshold is different, but $20 or more for run filler for something you're not super attached to, it didn't feel that great. And I'm glad I'm catching this on the earlier end. So I think I want to target the more well-known books in that Claremont run that I'm missing. Even, I have my sights maybe on like an X-Men issue 94, giant size X-Men number 1. But I could definitely say that is a grail book for me. So that is John's X-Men update, X-Men check-in for the spring of 2026. So the other books that I got, the remaining 2 rather, are Amazing Spider-Man. First up, we've got this fun cover and iconic cover of Amazing Spider-Man issue number 55. Spidey is reflected in the goggles there. I was able to stretch my trade-in money a little more, in that this issue was marked down a little bit more because of this number stamp right over Doc Ock's eye. And funny enough, I actually didn't notice it at first. That's how much it didn't bother me. And there were like 2 or 3 copies that Kamikaze had. It didn't bother me. My son actually pointed out, like, "Oh, there's a stamp right there." It could have been disappointing, or I could have felt really foolish for not noticing that. But honestly, it kind of gives it some weird charm. It gives it my copy something unique. The condition of the book is just fine too, so that certainly helps things. But I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments. Like, I know that date stamps, which are very common at the time, don't, if you send this in to get graded, that won't affect. But this, I don't think this is one of those, like the newsstand date stamp. I think this is something else, possibly a store's, pricing stamp or something like that. But I think this kind of goes along the lines of like grease pencil markings, or maybe even just like pen markings on books. So is that a deal breaker for you guys? Or I think, does it depend? Because it's in an unobtrusive spot for me here, so it's all good to me. So that is the first Amazing Spider-Man book. And then the last comic is a big comic. It is on my kind of my hit list, my wish list for this year. But this one is a first appearance. It is Amazing Spider-Man issue number 194, the first appearance of Black Cat. And before I forget, guys, I hope you're watching Spider Noir. It's on Amazon Prime. There is a version. This is the one with Nicolas Cage as, in this case, Ben Reilly, Spider-Man Noir. But he has to be called Spider Noir for legal reasons, I believe. There's a version of Felicia Hardy, Cat Hardy. And just really, I'm not done with the series yet. I'm really enjoying that. Just want to give a shout out since I'm in the middle of going through that series right now. But the first Black Cat, I've been picking up kind of the first appearances of various Spider-Man allies and villains, and really enjoying that. Amazing Spider-Man is like too expensive and too long of a series to really have that completionist desire to want to finish this book. But I think pretty early on in the year, I did identify this one as one that it's a book I want in my collection, but I think there's also quite a bit of upside, like a potential for this one to grow in value, especially with, you know, future Spider-Man media, whether it be, you know, movies, obviously, video games, etc. I think Black Cat always has a place in that, and you know, we always see her popularity rise. But great cover. This is one that I've seen in my casual browsing before picking this one up. Because of the black cover, I've seen some beat up copies. Not to say this one's not mint by any means, but I would say it's in my sweet spot for older comics at probably between like a 7.0 and an 8.0. I'm happy to get a better price on a comic for a slightly lower grade. I'm not chasing that 9.8, that, you know, mint condition. If I can get one at a good price, sure, but that is not a requirement to enter my personal comic collection. So yeah, first Black Cat, and you know, just imagine all that stuff, all those toys, a long box of comics, video games, just taking up space, not being used, not being utilized, and being able to shrink it down to that. That is, there's a relief in that, but also a relief, or not a relief, a sense of satisfaction to be able to add these really cool books into my comic collection. Yeah, that's the haul. That's the video for today. I'd love to hear from you guys. Did you have a favorite book in today's video? Let me know down below. And I also threw out a couple of different like how you collect type questions. So feel free to answer one or all of them. You know, how do you collect? It's always fun to hear how everyone does it differently. But thank you guys again for tuning in today. I really do appreciate the time you took out to join me for this video, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Take care.